Hi folks, Ryan Honeyman here from Lift Economy. Many folks have come to us over the last 10 years and asked, how do I get more involved in creating an economy that works for the benefit of all life? They also ask, what skills and experiences do I need to help make this transition? So 3 years ago, we created something called the Next Economy MBA to help address this and similar questions. Lift Economy's Next Economy MBA is an online course that's designed for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, students, recent graduates, employees, and folks who want to learn more about transformational Next Economy strategies and businesses. Join the growing alumni network of nearly 250 alumni who've gone through this program and learned essential skills and hopefully built lifelong relationships for catalyzing businesses in the emergent and regenerative economy. So we encourage you to check out our course. You can go to lifteconomy.com/MBA. The next course, Cohort 7, starts on September 21st, 2021. So once again, go to www.lifteconomy.com/MBA. And now, on with the show. Welcome to Next Economy Now. The goal of this podcast series is to highlight the leaders who are taking a regenerative, bioregional, equitable, democratic, racially just, and whole systems approach to creating the new economy.
Welcome, John.
Hey, Sean, nice to be here.
Great to have you, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Back here.
Good. Well, I'd love to just start off by hearing some of your story and how you came to this work that you're doing. Share with our listeners a little of your background.
Well, it's kind of interesting. The times being what the times are. My early times were the late 60s when we absolutely knew as we went back to the land that there was going to be a serious revolution and everything was going to change. Now, I think it turned out that we were right, except we had the time frame wrong. We thought this was going to happen immediately in a year, but it turns out that it's taken 50 years and we've got a ways to go still. But so I really started my career living in agricultural communes and trying to keep a roof over our head. And that's how I first learned about building, was just keeping the rain out. It became a passion. And gradually, it became what I actually do. And there was a time in the early 70s when we came to Martha's Vineyard to build a house and thought we'd be there for 6 months, have this wonderful handcrafted house all done and pocket full of money back to Vermont. And turned out that a year later we were still slaving away on the same one, but somebody else had asked us to build a house. And so we stayed and we did that. And we had an older friend, a mentor, who followed our work and appreciated what we did. And one time he was looking at a project with us and he said, "Man, the work is beautiful. Are you making any money?" And I said, "No, we're basically losing money on everything we do." And he said, "Well, Abrams, you've got a novel idea here, subsidized housing for the rich." Bam. And that blunt assessment was really what led me to go, wait a minute, I want to understand what business is. I want to understand what business can be. And I never thought of myself as a businessman, but I want to think of myself as a business person who is bringing life to our economy and bringing good lives and good careers to people. So that was really my start. Lee Halprin's blunt assessment of my terrible business practices.
Great. And since then you've got the business side in order. And catch us up. How big is South Mountain Company now?
No, we do not have anything in order, but we're on the way. We're always almost there, So over the years now, South Mountain is now 42 years old, and we have been, in 1987, we converted from a sole proprietorship to a worker co-op, and that was clearly a hinge point in our history. I thought that we were formalizing what already existed. Mm. It was a familial, friendly, felt democratic business, but nothing could have been further from the truth. by making that change and offering real ownership and a true voice to all of the participants. That was just a seminal moment, and it began our development as a truly democratic company. Today, we are an integrated architecture, building, and renewable energy company. There are 33 employees. We have always consciously stayed small, but it's a very diverse group in terms of expertise. There are 5 architects, 2 engineers, a woodworking shop, 5 construction superintendents, a group of carpenters, a number of administrative people, and we are able with this group to truly provide from planning to finish all the way with all of our projects. So that's what we do.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, it's really wonderful business model.
And the work is very varied too. We live in a place with very high real estate values, and affordable housing is absolutely an essential issue. And we have devoted ourselves over the last 30 years to figuring out how we can bring truly affordable housing, which means not the affordable housing that we often see that will barely outlive the life of the mortgage, and it's very expensive to maintain, expensive to heat and cool. So high performance, beautiful, affordable housing is our MO, and we try to balance that with our high-end work, which involves a lot of craft and is very fulfilling to the people that do the work. So it's a nice balance, and in the last few years, we have a thriving solar business, which really serves our mission in so many ways. So there's the combination.
That's great. And I do want to hear more about the details, but I also, just as we're getting into the conversation here, I want to start with kind of the big picture. You know, you mentioned kind of getting your beginnings in the late 60s and, you know, realizing a change needed to happen. And I think at this moment, you know, that is more apparent than it has been maybe since then. So we just, you know, we have a new president-elect maybe going to take office soon. I'm still haven't come to terms with that. We have a serious, significant uprising going on at Standing Rock, resisting just one of the many, many pipelines that are being built at this moment. So, John, I'd love to hear your perspective at this moment. You know, these kind of dynamic times. You know, what are your thoughts? What are you seeing?
Well, I'm glad you waited till this date for us to talk, because I'm not still in a state of shock. At least I may be able to speak to this. But you know, I see silver linings everywhere. Except for one, I can't figure out what the Supreme Court silver lining is. I don't think there is one. This is big trouble. But on the other hand, this was such a massive repudiation of both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, very well deserved in each case. We just haven't done the stuff. And now, you know, there's an election in 23 months, right? So now these guys, these lunatics, are going to actually have to do something. And it's going to have to resonate with the American people. But meanwhile, it's clear that this has been a tremendous wake-up call for all of us. And the struggle that, you know, I often think of things in terms of, as you mentioned, the long term. What are we doing over time? And we've got serious short-term work to do these days. And I feel like, you know, I read an interview with Ralph Nader in the Sun magazine a few days ago, and it was the most lucid expression that I have seen of not just what our situation is, but how you change it. And I haven't figured out yet what that's going to cause me to do, but I can tell that there's something welling up that I want to change the way I live my life in a political sense, because this time is essential. We really need to work hard. I hope I figured it out.
So what changes do you see? I mean, and I'm curious, you know, how do you see your work as relevant now?
Well, I think that our work our work is climate change is the essential overlying principle, the essential overlying kind of, it's the background for our work and the foreground for our work. It's within this context that we work. So that doesn't change. We only have to do better and get better all the time. But that's what we always are feeling. Now it feels like that we have to pay a different kind of attention to the political system. I don't know what the form of that is. I really don't know yet. But I know that that's that is going to be in the forefront of our minds as we think about it. Just a couple of days after the election, we had a board meeting of the owners. We have a large Brazilian population here, and people started talking about, a lot of the people that we work with and we know are living suddenly in a state of fear that they did not experience before. What can we do about that right now? And it came out that there's an organization that gives free legal aid locally that we could support. And so let's just jump right on that. But that's like a drop in the bucket. But it signified to me that people are deeply affected by this change, deeply affected by the way the world has changed with Donald Trump's election. So I just have a feeling that we are going to work harder than we've been working to affect change.
So is that kind of the vibe at South Mountain Company of kind of just double down on what we're already doing since you're already so deep in creating solutions? It's
double down on what we're doing, but maybe think a little differently about what else we could be doing in the political arena. So yeah, we have our fingers in all kinds of things, and we don't want to just drop anything, but we may be able to expand and extend what we do. One of the things that is very important to me these days is an organization that we started as part of the Northeast Sustainable Energy Association a few years ago called Building Energy Bottom Lines. And what it is a group of peer group networks of 10 to 12 businesses in the Northeast, in the design, build, architecture, energy realm, that meet several times a year for deep dives into one of the businesses, 2.5 days. And it's all about each of us working hard to improve these other businesses. It started with 30 businesses, 3 facilitators. We're now forming our 5th group, so it'll soon be 50. I was recently in Seattle and gave a talk to the Eco Building Guild and brought up this idea and how powerful it is to make all of us more effective at what we do. And now they are starting a group, and that's sounding very good to me, because the purpose of this group is the organization, is the recognition that many of us in these fields devote ourselves to being technically proficient at the expense of being effective as businesses. Right. So this is to improve our business practices, our triple bottom line business practices, and to do better at profiting, to do better for the environment, and to do better socially than we have been doing. So I'm very excited about this effort.
Beautiful. So not only are you, organizing democratically within your own company, right, and collaborating with your coworkers and your staff, so now this takes it a ring outwards and say, okay, let's find who else is in our sphere professionally, and instead of maybe behaving competitively and not sharing industry secrets, where you're circling up and saying, all right, let's lift all boats here. Let's share best practices, and let's give each other the type of insight and analysis that you can't do on yourself.
Exactly. And it's really interesting. So the 3 of us who started this organization and were the original 3 facilitators have all been involved in peer group networks like this in the past. And there are many of these around the country. And they're usually national, so that people don't have overlapping territory. Right. And they're always focused on one thing, the bottom line, improving the bottom line. So we wanted to do 2 things differently. We wanted this to be all about the triple bottom line, and we wanted it to be regional so that people were within driving distance of each other, and we weren't flying across the country all the time. And the one thing that we were concerned about was the overlapping territory, and was that going to cause problems? Because really what you're doing is you're opening your books, you're opening your best practices, you're sharing everything. You're just putting it all out on the table. And were people really going to be able to do this when they were working at close quarters with others? The incredible finding is that there have been no issues in the past 3 years with these now 40-something companies. There have been no issues with territory overlap, but there have been convergences. There have been synergies that have been created and collaborations that have been created because this group of people has become so close. So the one fear that we had has turned into a big plus.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's really, that's where we want to go with this podcast is Next Economy Now. What are the solutions that are working? And really it's just collaboration and taking that up to the next scale. So
well, we see this as something that people could do anywhere, you know. So if people are interested, go to NESEA.org, NESEA.org, and look at building energy bottom lines, and you will find the information on this organization and how it works. And then do it yourself.
yeah,
Start one. And if you want any help, let us know. We'll be there with you.
The other thing I think that's, it's important to note is in terms of solutions, kind of what can we do? Because you can look at the whole picture and feel maybe demotivated or demoralized and that kind of thing. But I'm still not kind of what you're saying. I'm not sure exactly what's the intervention or interaction with the political system. But what I do know is business can just move right on ahead and create systems that work for people.
We can absolutely make the businesses that we want, no matter what the environment is. We are unconstrained by that. But also, at the same time, to me, it's pretty uplifting that, there was another 70-year-old white guy, the guy from Vermont, who basically has not a whole hell of a lot of sense of humor, very little charisma. He says the same damn thing over and over. In fact, I've been listening to him say the same damn thing for 30 years, but it's the right thing. And the fact that it connected with so many young people across this country, that is thrilling, and it's meaningful, and it is going to amount to something.
Yeah, talking about, of course, historic campaign by Bernie Sanders, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good to see for sure. Well, I'm curious, John, maybe you can share some of the, some of the nuts and bolts, the specifics at South Mountain Company that are maybe important solutions that people don't know about, that these are ways that we can run our businesses that will create high quality, not only the results, the profit results for the business, but the quality of life results for the people working there.
So right off the bat, we believe that our workplace is a place that creates jobs for life for those that want them, that are fulfilling and pay a true living wage with the best benefits on the planet, so that people can really raise their families in this community and stay here and be a part of it. That's our primary goal in a certain sense. And one of the things we've learned about that is that as an employee-owned company, we're not hiring people. When we're hiring, we're not hiring for skills. Yes, skills are important, but we are hiring future owners. We're hiring for characteristics of people that we want to share ownership with in the future. And this is all, the illustration is so vivid to me how this works. From the last few years, I think in the last 3 years, we've had 4 people retire or move on who collectively worked here well over 100 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
The people that are, and it's tough to lose this institutional memory, but we're not really losing it. They're still around. And but the people that are replacing them, the young people that are coming in with dedication and passion and commitment, and the people that are in the middle and who have been here for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, they are feeling the transition from the first generation to the second generation, and they understand that it's in their hands and that they're going to do it, and they are so excited. So I walk up the stairs to our office every morning, and I feel like, what? So I get to work with these people all day long, and I get paid for this, and that's what we want it to feel like. We want it to feel like exciting to come to work, and that you're doing something meaningful in the world. And at the end of the day, you can feel like, you know what? I put in a good day today, and I did good work today, and I did it with people that I care about.
Wonderful.
I think part of that, Sean, part of that is ownership is one thing, but true collaboration in the workplace in a way that feels effective. So, and part of that is hierarchy. We believe in hierarchy. It's just that we believe in a hierarchy of expertise and not a hierarchy of power. So when it works like that, people feel good, they feel respected, they feel taken care of, and they feel like their expertise is honored, whatever it might be. So we're always looking for ways that we can collaborate, but with real direction, real efficiency. I think one of the things that has been most important for us is to believe in meetings, but believe that meetings need to be utterly productive, or else meetings are they crush your spirit. So facilitation, training and facilitation, who knows why our schools don't train us to do meeting facilitation. It's one of the most important skills we can have. So that's something that we have concentrated on. So rather than saying, oh my God, there's too many meetings, we shouldn't have so many meetings, well, let's have all those meetings that we need. Let's celebrate those meetings, but let's make them fast and crisp and carefully facilitated with good agendas and great minutes,
Yeah, wonderful. So John, you mentioned providing the best benefits in the world. I'm curious if you could share more details about what exactly those are, and maybe what would some of the benefits that might be surprising to people who are used to traditional benefits like 2 weeks vacation, partial medical care, those kind of standard benefits.
I think the big one is health and dental, where we've always done 100% and always covered deductibles. So really you can count on working here and pay nothing for medical care. And then there's also an allowance for alternative medical that's not covered by any kind of medical insurance. So the health benefits are just, you just don't have to think about it. So that's a big one. And generally, we're always looking for anything we can do that's truly family friendly, that makes family life better as well as work life. So maternity leave, paternity leave, help with adoption.
Do you mind what is a maternity or paternity policy at South Mountain Company?
So, I'm not absolutely sure, but I believe that a new mother gets 6 weeks paid, and then as long as she wants in addition, with no real limits on that. And a new father gets 2 weeks paid, and then an additional 4 to 6 weeks if they want.
That's great.
Another big one is home ownership grants, helping people with either rental packages or grants for first-time home buyers. Obviously, housing is a big deal here.
Yeah, that one's amazing. I remember we talked about that before, and it's like you guys are obviously builders. And so the fact that you actually step in and help people, own their own homes is pretty amazing.
So important that people be able to live here and have stable housing. It just, it makes their lives better. We have a very substantial profit sharing program. So we have a typical hierarchical wage scale, except that we maintain a maximum of 4 to 1 from top to bottom. Mm-hmm. But what partially mitigates that is our profit sharing is based strictly on hours. So the highest paid person gets the same amount as the lowest paid person if they work the same number of hours. So that's a leveling device. And equity is the same thing. So our owners, of whom there are 20 now, 21, after profit sharing, there's another level of equity sharing that's also done on the basis of hours worked. And that goes into internal capital accounts that stay with the company until you leave the company. And at this point, there are literally several $1 million in equity has been earned, more than that. And there's an equity fund to back it up, to pay it off. And right now we're paying at least a half a dozen retired owners. We pay them over a period of 8 years. And that's a very important part of the benefit of being an owner at South Mountain. And the fact, so a 35-year-old or a 30-year-old or a 25-year-old owner who's earning equity right now has to wonder, is that going to be there when they retire in 40 years? And we have a spreadsheet that's a 25-year spreadsheet that makes a number of assumptions and makes sure that we always have enough in this fund. And it's the one fund, it's the one decision-making among the owners is by consensus, but we have a 3/4 supermajority backup if needed.
Yeah.
That fund can only be spent for other purposes besides paying off past owners if all of the owners agree 100%. So it's inviolate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
What
about time off? Just in a year, do you get a certain amount of vacation or?
Yeah,
I remember you talked about sabbaticals. What are
you
policies around that?
So in addition to vacation time, which I think you get a week when you first start work and 3 weeks after, I'm not sure exactly but over time you get more and more. But there's also 7 sick and personal days that you can use any way you want to use them, and you can carry some of those over to the following year. There's a sabbatical program where you can take time off if approved, and you don't get paid, but all your benefits get paid while you're on sabbatical.
So your benefits are, in fact, I mean, you're not collecting salary, but your job's kept for you.
Your job is secure and your benefits are paid. So
that's amazing.
We also, I mean, one of our 10% of our profits go to charity, mostly local, and 10% to pro bono work for nonprofits and affordable housing. And people in the company get to choose where those funds go, and particularly to suggest that we support their favorite causes. So that's a piece of that. So yeah, I don't have them all memorized, but they're in a big thick policy manual, and I believe that policy manual is on our website. Actually, I'm pretty sure it is. So if people want to look more, there's a documents section of our website, and it may be that policy manual is on there. Our bylaws are on there. A number of documents about the company and how it works, and I believe the operating policies may be there too.
That's great. And so, I mean, you know, that's pretty much unheard of, right? In terms of a really robust benefits package. Do you ever, like, is there a worry that people take advantage of it, or what do you see as results of that?
People feel first of all, people feel grateful, but to nobody in particular, to themselves as much as anybody, because it just feels like this is what we as a group have decided for each other. We see very little incidents of I mean, I never feel like people take advantage of it. I feel like people respect it tremendously and feel like they're lucky to be in such a situation. And in order to stay in such a situation, we have to do good work. We have to be profitable, and we have to be lean. In fact, so another part of this that I didn't mention is we carry a large budget for professional development, and people have tremendous opportunities. And when they are off doing something, they get full pay for the time away and all expenses. So we're trying
seminars, trainings, classes.
Yes. And of their own choosing, but needing approval, needing relevance. So that people really take advantage of. And of course, that's great for us because we get it back.
So does it play out just on a single bottom line, financial bottom line, in terms of all of the money that you're putting into these benefits? Do you feel like you get it back in terms of performance and profitability in the company?
You know, that's not really measurable, but I would say you betcha. 100%. It comes back in terms of productivity and in terms of having a group of happy people that are happy to be at work and do a good job. So yeah, there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. Well, and it's got to be measurable just overall. You know, are you running a profit?
Profits are good. Yeah. Yeah, we're able to do all this stuff, and that's because we're profitable. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I want to move on to just this concept of placemaking and community development. Obviously, you're in a small community there on Martha's Vineyard. You mentioned before affordable housing. I'm curious, can you share more exactly what you're doing on affordable housing? Because, as I understand, a lot of your clients are, wealthy people, building second homes and whatnot. And so how are you able to combine affordable housing with what you're doing?
So first of all, I want to say that in any desirable area, any place where people really want to live, the working people in those areas tend to get left in the dust. And, they're the beating heart and soul of the place. They're the storytellers, they're the story makers, and they get priced out and pushed out. So that's always been a very big part of our business, is to figure out solutions to the affordable housing crisis in our area. And early on, we began to talk to our wealthy clients and say, this is important for you. This is the spirit of the place. And you don't come to this place just because of its beauty. You come because of the culture and the community. Help us to solve this problem. And we found that our clients reacted in very positive ways. So they have been, this client group that's always growing has been a key donor group, a key supporter of affordable housing. And And we've just made it a part of our work that we always have at least one affordable housing project going. We do those projects in a way. We've pushed to see affordable housing be truly affordable, long-term, durable, energy efficient, low maintenance, comfortable, healthy, safe, all of those things, not crappy affordable housing that's going to barely outlive the life of the mortgage. So that's been a calling card of ours, is to do true high performance affordable housing.
Can you say more about, as you're doing these projects, obviously you know, some people might want to build, really large houses, really grandiose type of stuff. Do you have any kind of limits on what you will or will not work on?
Well, we absolutely do. And more, I would say that we are focused on doing what really matters, not only on doing things that don't matter in a better way. So big houses, ostentatious houses, we've never really done them. We've always kind of drawn certain lines in the sand. But when we do elaborate projects, we require that the property be a zero energy property and produce at least as much energy as it uses, and that that selects out many people,
right?
And it means that we're working with clients whose values are aligned with ours. So we do draw those lines in the sand, and we do also, a larger and larger percentage of our work is solar, and where we feel like we are really making some kind of modest difference in changing the way our culture functions and the way our economy functions.
Absolutely. Well, John, I as you know, I used to run a cabinet shop in San Francisco, and
I remember it well.
Yeah, we certainly saw things change. 2007, 2008, with the onset of the Great Recession. There, I'm curious how that event affected South Mountain Company, and what kind of process did you go through? How did you come out on the other side of it?
Well, those were incredible times. I do, at this point, I often say that the crash of 2008 was the second best thing that ever happened to this company. It wasn't as lucky and fortunate and fortuitous as the switch to affordable housing, the switch to employee ownership, which really was the hinge point in our history. And I can't say that at the time we really knew how important what we were doing was, but it truly was. And the crash, it really inspired us to open our minds, to think differently, to tackle some very tough issues that we had not here we were, for the past 30 years, we had good, productive work for every person in the company, every day of every week of every month of every year. And suddenly we were faced with the unthinkable, that we may not. So what do we do? And at that point, we made a tiered policy to implement if things slowed down too much, that started with revolving voluntary furloughs, and then involuntary furloughs, and then reduced work hours, reduced wages, and so on. There were 6 or 8 things before layoffs. And I will never forget the day that we had a company meeting, and I announced to the company that we were cutting wages 20% across the board.
Ouch. Yeah.
Not a single person left. And in fact, after the meeting, people thanked me and said, and I said, well, wait a second. You didn't get that message? 20% knocked off your pay this week and for the foreseeable future. And we don't know when it will come back. And they said, yeah, but it's happening to your pay, and it's happening to Deirdre's pay, and it's happening to everybody's pay in this whole company. And we're still working. I'm grateful. So this was an amazing time for us when we really tackled difficulties that we hadn't before.
And we see that right across the co-op movement, as co-ops in general come out stronger through economic downturns, precisely because of this tactic, right? We can all band together.
Everybody's in it together.
Tighten up a little bit.
Yeah.
We appreciate that teamwork and cohesion, and because of that, well, maybe you can share. Did you get some, benefits out of that in terms of what happened to the company?
Huge benefits and surprising things too. We took kind of a ruthless inventory of ourselves, our capabilities, how we were doing. And what came out of that was a sense from some of the younger people in the company that there were people who had been around for a long time that were not carrying their weight, and there was resentment about that. And so we felt like we had to confront it. And in the end, despite ourselves and despite not needing to, we did do some layoffs. And they were really, we moved some people out of the company earlier than they would have otherwise. And we worked out agreements with them that, and not all of it was, it was absolutely wrenching. It was heartbreaking. And with a few people, it was very difficult, but we had to do it. For the overall morale of the company, this was the result. This is what we discovered.
So what about the next one? We still have a macro economy that's, based on fossil fuels and, might be called gambling in terms of what's happening in the stock markets. And, probably likely there's more instability in the future. Do you guys see
one of the things,
and have something in plan?
One of the things we did as soon as we were back on our feet is we started a reserve fund that we build. And in fact, we have right now $1 million key man insurance policy on my life. In the year 2020, the premiums skyrocket. No, it's actually 2018. And so we resolved years ago that we would have $1 million reserve fund and self-insure that policy and stop paying it by the time that premium increase happens. We're now at about 700,000 and building steadily. So, and we have much stronger continuity plans. Yeah, we assume there will be another one, and we want to be in a good place. And we've actually changed our work mix in a way that we will be less susceptible. We think that in a recession, our solar business will continue to thrive. That we've reached a point with a tipping point with the transition to renewable energy. In fact, let me say a little bit more about that because that's also, in these times of plenty of bad news, I think there's good news as well. That the transition to renewable energy has reached a tipping point, that solar deployment worldwide is exponential. The International Energy Agency and the World Economic Forum predicted in 2007 that there would be roughly 25 gigawatts of solar in the year 2015. The end of the year 2015, there were 10 times that worldwide. And some very smart people started feeling that virtuous cycles are going to contribute to a drop in fossil fuel demand, and because we're switching from fuels, oil and coal, to technology, solar and wind, and technology prices are going down, and fuel is getting harder and harder to take from the ground. So there are some, as I say, people that I think are very bright, who feel like that fuel is really going to stay in the ground where it needs to. And they go so far as to predict that global carbon emissions will peak in 2019, which is just a few years away. So this is very uplifting to me. It doesn't change in any way the urgency that we all feel, because we have to work all the harder, because all that says is that there actually is a possibility that maybe we'll beat climate change.
Yeah.
Right? So we feel good about that. We feel like it's a stabilizing force in our business, and something that promises the possibility of a better future.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because as we're paying attention to the climate news and the West Antarctic ice shelf being much thinner than we thought, and Greenland is disappearing quickly, and so it's some of these climate effects are much more accelerated. But as you're sharing on the solution sides, the solution impacts are having an accelerated impact as well. So it's,
and at least in California where you are, it sounds to me like there's not going to be a warm welcome for Trump's policies, and that other nations are going to start to go through Sacramento rather than Washington. That California is going to stand strong.
Oh yeah, well what is it, the fifth largest economy in the world? That's got a lot of weight to it, huh?
It's huge, yeah.
Well, I'm curious, John. With you shared some of your benefits, some of the planning for the future. one thing, at Lift Economy is we're working with a lot of, small companies working on solutions like this. One of the challenges we see is people really having a hard time stepping back from the kind of the day-to-day operations, and being able to look long-term at strategy and planning and whatnot. How do you think you've been able to do that? Or, do you have any kind of secrets or best practices to share that have given you that, composure to take those longer views of the business?
I guess I would only say, Sean, that we're great believers in strategic planning, and we've found over time that it pays off. We always have a 5-year plan in place. We're always looking 10 years. And I don't know, it feels that these efforts to step back and look and think long-term are incredibly rewarding. And at first it's so hard because it's so costly. What are we doing? That we should be working.
Yeah, well, especially
work.
Hustling to make payroll this week. The 5-year
Yeah.
plan doesn't seem so so important.
But it is so crucial, and we have to get. I mean, it's so American to think in 4-year election cycles and to think, entirely short term. But we have to be thinking about 10 and 25 and 50. We have been working now for, I would say, 7 or 8 years on the transition to the next generation of South Mountain that we don't expect to happen. In 2025, I'll be 75, the company will be 50 years old, and the transition will be complete. But it's been a long-term planning process. And my sense is that in 8 or 10 years, we will have completed that transition. We will be, as a company, in our practices, a net energy producer. Within 20, we have decided to be a waste-free company. That's a hard thing to do. You got to start early and take a long time to do it because it isn't going to happen overnight. And so I hope that in 50 years, we'll be seamlessly transitioning to generation 3, at least. And without, problems seem so intractable when you look at them in short cycles. We
Right.
can't do that.
Yeah.
If you say, in a year, can we do that? No way. But when you say, hey, it can be 25, it can be 50, they're soluble.
Can you say more about that transition strategy? So you said in 2025, transition will be complete, means you'll be retired. You're the president, CEO, founder. You'll no longer be working. You get to hopefully, relax and enjoy some.
Or do something. Yeah.
But what does that look like? You're going to find and train another, president replacement, or is it you're going for a leadership team or council, or what is your transition?
So we have a very strong management committee that is all of the department heads and one rotating person. It's run by our COO, Deirdre Bohan, and we have two plans. One is we call the avalanche scenario. That's what happens tomorrow if I'm buried by an avalanche today. So we've got that in place.
Are you a backcountry skier? Or what?
I'm a skier, yeah, absolutely. So it's much more likely that I get buried by an avalanche than hit by a bus. So
beautiful. That's a good way to go out, huh?
Yeah. So, and now we're starting to extend the Abby scenario to other key owners and employees. And then we also have a next 40 plan, which is the next 40-year plan. And that's where this transition happens. And one of the things we are thinking about co-CEOs. We're looking hard at King Arthur Flour Company.
Say, our friends at King Arthur, right? We did
Sure.
a podcast with all 3 of them.
Oh, did you really? With all 3 of them? Yeah, they're terrific. And when Steve Vogt left and they went to that co-CEO approach, we talked to him at length about that. Why'd you do that? Yep. And then we've talked to all 3 of them, and we think they're doing a great job. It's a fabulous company. And we feel like we have the combination of personnel to do that. So that might be the route. We'll see.
Great. Well, John, we just, appreciate so much you sharing all the wonderful things you're up to at South Mountain Company, and some of your learnings along the way. I'm curious, what else would you share? Some key, realizations or lessons learned or best practices from your 42 years in business now?
Well, first I would say, in terms of company culture, making a place where it is absolutely safe, no, not safe, but encouraged, that failure is encouraged. We have to be able, if we're going to take risks, we have to be able to fall flat on our face, and we have to get up smiling. So I've done a lot of
Can I just
failure.
add, like, how do you do that? Like, do you as the CEO make sure you take a lot of risks and fail publicly and talk about it? Or
Yeah, I mean, and encourage that in others. Absolutely. So it is. It's a culture building that. But what it really is from the get-go, from the start, that people are not blamed for their mistakes, and they're encouraged to look at them and learn from them, and feel like if you're not failing, you're not learning. So that's one thing. Another, I would say, is that believing in people and the potential of people, and always believing that they can grow and learn and do better, pays off, as does sharing ownership and sharing profits. That is really, in my view, the path to productivity and prosperity both.
Beautiful. Yeah, and if we had more companies practicing that, right, the economy would be a different place.
I think it would. Yeah, I think it will.
So, John, as we wrap up here, who else or what else do you see? What else do you see happening in the economy? That you're watching or you're inspiring. Any authors, books, any other companies? What else is going on out there that's really that you take note of?
There are so many people inspiring me. Paul Hawken once said, if you look at the science about what's happening on Earth and you're not pessimistic, you're not looking at the data. But if you think of all the people who are doing such wonderful work in small groups and large all over the globe to restore the health, to help the poor, if you look at that and you're not optimistic, then you haven't got a pulse. And that's what I see. I feel like that. I feel all the people working with such urgency to do what matters, the Van Jones and Bill McKibbins, the Elizabeth Warrens and Marjorie Kellys, Wendell Berry and Wes Jackson, Patagonia Zingermans, all the people whose names we don't know who are struggling to make a difference, but mostly the people I work with every day, because they're the ones I really know, who are doing things we never knew that we could do. That inspires me.
Beautiful. Yeah, this is the everyday heroes, right? The solutions are among us rather than in the headlines.
Yeah.
Well, John, thanks so much again for your time. Can you share contact info for yourself or your company? How can people get in touch and learn more about what you're up to?
My email address is Jabrams at southmountain.com. Our website is www.southmountain.com. And in fact, we're launching a whole new website around February 15th, I would say.
Nice.
So come take a look. And then on the website, there is a blog that you can keep track of. And hey, this place it's the people that work in it. And we remain a work in progress always, modest steps, a little bit at a time. It's still an adventure, and we are just grateful for all the collaborators who share the ride with us.
Next Economy Now is a production of Lift Economy. To listen to all of our episodes, go to lifteconomy.com/podcast. That's LIFT economy.com/podcast. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter at lifteconomy.com/newsletter. Please also rate and review our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.